Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video. Conqueror's Blade. So, finally got the proper Axe Raiders video together. Been having quite a lot of fun playing them though. Much better unit than I initially thought they were going to be. Actually proving to be a very good unit. But let's go and find them in the barracks and have a look at them. So, stat wise, they aren't necessarily all that much to look at, but it's the abilities where they come into play. Get quite a nice amount of hit points at 13,000, but defensively it looks like they're a pretty mediocre unit, and you would expect those hit points to deplete relatively fast. They do have a few things that kind of counteract that. Firstly, they get indomitable, which basically means that they do more damage the more pain they suffer. And they also covers a little bit about the extra skills they get when they run out of ammo. And that is a little bit of part of the reason why I've gone the bottom veterancy line, because that gets an increased duration. But there's some other nice things like the 10% melee damage reduction. That 60% block break is also really very nice when using your throwing axes, so it seems to me that this is kind of suits my playstyle slightly better. So if you're more axe focused, there are things like increased accuracy and increased range, as well as increased ammo associated with the top line, so I think both are probably going to be viable. They do also get some nice abilities like Spite, which means that when taking damage and their health goes below 50%, they get increased attack and defense. So even though their defense seems low, actually as they start to lose health, it stacks up and it increases as well as their attack. Plus they actually get to recover some health. They are a little bit like a miniature unit of berserkers. That seems to be how they behave. And also, when using the double axe throw, they can cause enemies' defense to get reduced as well. So they've got a lot of buffs and debuffs going on that may not actually initially be apparent from just the paper statistics. In terms of abilities, they really get two core abilities. They get a singular throw and a double throw, but there's a little bit more to it than that. The double throw is pretty much as it says. They get to throw two axes at the enemy. It's not aimed by you, they will aim it themselves. They do seem to be pretty accurate with it. And remember that because the range is fairly short, you tend to be fairly close. Occasionally they throw them at the wrong target, but the most of the time they seem to do that relatively nicely. And actually the damage is really rather high, sort of 1500 to 3000 per axe hit, so actually really well worth using. Plus, of course, because of the unit traits, you're getting that 200 damage reduction, defense reduction on the enemy unit. The other ability they're going to be getting is their normal throwing axes. This is basically the same as a javelin toss. You get to aim it, you pick where the axes get thrown. But you actually get a follow-up charge with it, and the unit will charge to where the throwing axes fall. But the most important thing is that they get this sort of, what I call like a phase shift. They get to shift through enemy units. If you had a line of stalwarts, I throw my axes just sort of beyond them, then charge, my axe raiders will pass through the front line of the stalwarts. I can then stop them, turn them around, and attack the stalwarts from behind. So in that sense, it has a really sort of damaging charge because it can get this sort of pass through and then turn around. We'll have a look at that a little bit more in clips, and hopefully it'll be slightly easier to understand. In terms of doctrines, we've got things like the Axe Doctrine, which actually came with the unlocks. Double skill throw now is knockback, causes knockback. You're going to be using the double axe throw a reasonable amount, so well worth having in my opinion. Beyond that, a little bit of increased slashing AP and damage, and then I've just gone through a breakthrough and an assassination doctrine. I don't think this is necessarily really necessary, but I was kind of hoping that some of the axe damage might increase enough to get the odd hero kill, but it doesn't really happen all that often. But anyway, I think I've probably waffled about them enough. Let's actually hop into some battles with them and see what we can actually do. So we kick things off on Aulenberg, not because it's a particularly nice clip, but it actually quite nicely demonstrates the phase shift, was what I've been calling the phase shift, the ability of these axe raiders to pass through units. Anyway, we initially get a little bit of a fight with this glaive. You can see how much its flying Weaver has diminished since it used to be, how little damage I took from that hit there. But anyway, he died easy enough, and enables me to start pushing up the staircase, and we get round the back of this unit of palace guards. Fine, well, we can get stuck into them. I don't mind a bit of rear palace guard action, and we can kill them relatively convincingly. But there is now a unit of grey hairs in front of us, a very tanky unit in this sort of environment. We use our one key to throw, and then we can basically shift through the unit. Look how the whole unit of axe raiders passes through the front line of the grey hairs. I'm now behind the grey hairs, and look how quickly they die. If you were trying to fight that unit of grey hairs from the front, that would be extremely difficult. And that really does kind of change the game a little bit in terms of how some of these units work. We then follow up on a few Landsknecks. I mean, not a particularly staggering problem, particularly for this unit. It cuts through them, well, relatively convincingly. They're dead very, very quickly. I then pull back and go and re-ammo and rearm the unit back at the supply point. But you can see against those grey hairs how effectively this unit can sort of transition through enemy units. Anyway, on to the main clip. And we are pushing to try and take the A point. Initially just heading up this tower. It's quite a tough one on this current castle map, famously hard A point to take. And most of the team's actually turning to the left. And I was just kind of having a look to see if they were going to push anything up from the A point. But in the end I decided, well, I might as well join the team on the left. Always enjoyed going left, so why not? Push up here, not really too much here, apart from a few archers at the back. And I thought, well, we throw some axes at them. It would be rude not to, wouldn't it? Initially I was sort of a little bit hesitant because I thought there might be Namkhans and I thought we were going to get boatloads of bleed damage. But since they weren't, we throw some axes at them. Don't get a lot of kills. Start to get pushed by a few pikes though. Okay, well I might as well double axe throw at them a little bit. Get knocked down a little bit. And now I'm basically all my abilities on cooldown. So the unit's just fighting as a unit. And even though this is a lower tier unit, admittedly, you can see how quickly and effectively they just cut through them. They act like a little bit of a mini unit of berserkers in my opinion. We also get some throws on this poleaxe. Very nearly managed to get the kill on him. It's so close, but somehow he manages to get off this wall. And I think he actually even survives, which was slightly annoying, but there we go. But anyway, we cleared out that side, picked up a good handful of kills, and are now pushing back towards the A point, which the team has done a really good job of securing. I thought I might get a few throws into the back of those iron caps, but they died before I could even get in position. But we do get a few throws into this cluster pushing up. But it's time to really start to get stuck in now. So we push the unit down, go on with the one key to throw my axes, and then that opens up the ability for me to charge in. And you see the unit charges in. Not all that much left of those shields, but kills them pretty convincingly. And considering we only started this battle a few minutes ago, we've now got the A point, we've had 56 kills, and yeah, feeling pretty happy with how the unit is performing so far. We moved down to the supply point though, didn't expect to be much here. I guess these squires were just a suicide to cover the rear action. You see what the axe hits are like though, nice. 2 to 3k per axe on that double axe throw. It's really good chunk of damage. Just make them a nice unit. And you can see actually here, because they're out of ammo, they unlock a charge ability, which is only when you're out of ammo. But you still see that charge ability still gets the same phase shifting style, right? We just ran almost completely through that unit of squires. It was only because I stopped them and pressed V to get them to turn around and attack those squires from behind that it worked out. So they get that phase shifting ability. I'm going to call it that. Better names in the comments. Anyway, we've got A, we've got the supply. On to the B point. Rearmed, rehealed, ready to go. And we're going to get stuck into a little bit of a bigger fight here, because a few interesting things are going to happen. So firstly, we push around this corner. And I want the team to start coming with me. We need to start getting set up. And you never really know, are the enemies going to defend the B point here? Sometimes they do, sometimes they just don't really bother. But we move up with these halberdiers anyway. At least giving me some sort of vague element of calf protection. As a unit of Laos come. Well, not quite what I was expecting. Didn't really want to face them frontally, but more than happy to throw some axes at them. And you see we get a few kills on them before we get pushed by some paladins. So straight on with my one ability and with the charge, because paladins take extra damage from behind. And look how quickly we just obliterate that unit of paladins. We're up to 100 kills now. Then we get pushed by the ASAPs. That's when things are getting a bit more difficult. We're now in a quite a tough fight here and we are taking casualties. But considering we started this sort of second fight on 50 kills, we're up to 120 kills now. And we're still fighting through. And we're fighting equivalent tier units in terms of ASAPs and paladins. Managed to just get the kill on that enemy hero and try and push forwards onto point. We actually get pushed by a few pikes from behind, so the unit's kind of fighting a little bit of a rear guard on them. Finish them off, and then we can finally sort of cap the B point. But you can see how quickly these guys can build up damage. They are super brutal. We go for a few throws against the other Axe Raiders, but it's not really happening, and that finishes off the list of my ammo. Those remaining Axe Raiders don't actually decide to hang around, they make a run for it, so that really just leaves me with the supply point, and I end up switching out to some Sealadars. But it gives a little bit of an idea of how the unit performs quite well, in my opinion. I think they're definitely a really, really nice unit. Very usable, very enjoyable, and you can pick up a lot of kills very, very quickly. I also like the fact that, you know, if in doubt, if you can't really get stuck into anything, then you can just sort of throw some axes at people, and that works pretty well as well. But anyway, we'll end the video there. Hopefully you've found this one enjoyable. If you have, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And of course, subscribe to the channel for a lot more Conqueror's Blade content. Thanks for watching, guys. See you all on the next one.